Hi guys. As you know, things on YouTube are really bad at the moment. It took them a while to get here, but now we actually are being hounded by the cyber police. And guess what? Consequences will never be the same. I want to talk a little bit about it in this video. But this week is also a landmark in the culture war, so I want to talk about that as well. Because I believe that the current state of the culture war is being mischaracterized, and in a way that helps the cyber police. You may have noticed some of my videos were taken down. I have no idea why. There is nothing in them that justifies this. The thing that they all have in common is that they are all videos that debunk anti-Semitism. I don't know what to make of it, but I will tell you this. I am increasingly convinced that not only the flagging and the removal of the videos, but also the appeal process, are all being handled by robots. There is nobody to talk to. This is the world that we live in today, so for now, until we figure it out, I'll have to be careful with what I am uploading. How did things become so bad? Well, let's go back and remember how the current culture war began. It began as a battle within the left, between the liberals and the radicals. The radicals are those who believe that we are completely shaped by our society, so if we shape the system in the right way, and if we adopt the right language, all of the social problems will be solved. The liberals are those who believe that human nature is flawed, so we cannot form a perfect society. As liberal leftists, we try to fix society's problems as much as possible, but we know that we will never be able to solve them completely. The radicals were always there, but they were marginalized within the left. But then, things changed. Why? Because in the beginning of this decade, the liberal left won what was our main battle in previous decades, namely the identity politics battle. We basically managed to rid Western culture of intrinsic racism, sexism, and homophobia. But many liberals were still in the mindset of fighting against these forms of bigotry, so the radical left managed to sell them its own version of identity politics. Many liberals suddenly changed, and they didn't even notice that this was happening to them. The way the radical left managed to achieve it is by disguising its ideology and concealing it in liberal tongue. This is the definition that I gave to the term regressive left. It is radical left that masquerades as liberal. Take, for instance, the gender pay gap issue. Women earn less than men on average, but this is because they choose lesser paying professions. Now, for the radical left, this is the problem. They believe that society shapes women to make these choices, so they want to overthrow the system. But they know that most people are not on board with that, so when they publicly talk about the gender pay gap issue, they do it in a way that makes it seem as if women earn less for doing the same job. This is how they manage to get many left-wing liberals, and even many right-wing liberals, to take their side. I coined the term passive regressives to define those liberals who become useful idiots for the regressives. The problem is that they don't look into the issues and buy what the regressives are telling them, because they believe that they are liberals like them. They also believe that those who disagree are doing so because they are bigots, and need to be shouted down. And this is how the radical left, the so-called SJWs, took hold over the public discourse. It happened gradually. One of the first to feel it was the skeptic community. Gamergate happened in 2011. But if you look back to 2012, the only skeptics making YouTube videos against SJWs are Thunderfoot, and occasionally the Amazing Atheist. In 2013 there are already some channels popping up specifically targeting SJWs, but they are small. Right-wingers were already warning us about it, but we leftists thought that they were exaggerating, as usual, and that the radicals are still a marginal bunch. Then, 5 years ago this week, came two videos one day after the other, which opened a new era. On the 20th of July 2014, a small channel called Sargon of Akkad uploaded a video titled This Week in Stupid, which talked about all the stupid things that happened in culture that week. Sargon then made it into a weekly segment, and it became the flagship of those fighting against the regressive left. We would all send him stories about SJW stupidity from around the world. He would edit and talk about them, and we all watched and laughed. On the next day, the 21st, a small channel called Shoe on Head uploaded a video titled Oppression Olympics, a hilarious piece of satire about SJWs, which went viral and awoke many people to the problem, including myself. This was the beginning of the rise of a new type of culture warriors. They were influenced by the original YouTube skeptics, but they combined that with aspects of 4chan culture, the trolling, the memeing, and all that. A month later, Gamergate happened, and this new brand took over. The importance of Gamergate was that it opened up a space for all the shitlords, all the groups that the SJWs were trying to silence. Risque comedians, dissident intellectuals, ex-Muslims, Islam critics, feminism critics, men's rights activists, evolutionary scientists, non-white conservatives, LGBT conservatives, objectivists, nationalists, race realists, alt-righters, all got their say within this space. Some of these groups are groups that I vehemently disagree with, but they all have merit. They all bring up points that need to be part of the discussion. So the main battle in those years was to allow them to speak. By now, I feel like this battle has been won. The ideas brought up by these groups are now part of the debate, and many shitlords have become influential voices within the culture. We've created the counterforce to the regressive left. The only place where I still see a major problem is in the academy, where you have entire departments that are ruled by regressives. This is where the fight needs to keep going, and because I'm a scholar, I'll keep fighting this fight. But on the street level, I feel like we've evened the playing field. Now it's a matter of who has the better ideas. Many of us have figured it out. Many shitlords are not really doing the anti-SJW thing anymore, and have turned their critical eye to the culture itself, talking about video games, comic books, movies, and things that they like. And this is exactly what they should be doing. This is how you win the culture war. You create loud voices that become part of the culture industry. They bring into it the values that negate the values that the SJWs were trying to enforce on it. The SJWs, meanwhile, are pretty much gone. All those voices and outlets that dominated the middle of the decade, no one listens to them anymore. I know it seems like their ideas have permeated pop culture and adopted by different culture industries. It is what is known as wokeism. But what we are actually witnessing is the regular process of pop culture appropriating underground ideas in a way that reaffirms liberal values, and the culture industry appropriating them in a way that reaffirms capitalism. So don't stress over it. The problem is, the anti-SJW awareness has now taken hold over the right, and they see SJWs in every corner. So whenever there is the slightest sign of wokeism, they scream bloody murder, as if Western society is about to be overrun by communists. Some of them have become just as ridiculous as the left-wing snowflakes of yesteryear. As a result, we are seeing some shitlords reaffirming their left-wing identity, something that they were ashamed to do 2 years ago. They are now mainly punching right, and becoming part of left-wing political discourse. Again, this is a positive development. We need these voices on the left. At the same time, we are seeing the rise of what is called BreadTube. Those are left-wing YouTubers who are mainly criticizing shitlords, and have become very popular. The BreadTubers are awfully passive-regressive, but not fully regressive. They at least partially understand the problems with the SJWs. One of my aims in becoming a YouTuber was to help save the left, and I am now optimistic. If the inner debate on the online left is between left-wing shitlords and BreadTubers, we are in a much healthier place than we were 5 years ago. The left still sucks, and we are currently witnessing left-wing political parties being wrecked by SJWs, but we have planted the seed for a positive change. Now, some of you are probably thinking, what the hell are you talking about? It's worse than ever. Didn't you start this video by telling us how Google SJWs are now censoring your videos? Well, true, the censorship is worse than ever. But, and this is the main point I want to make in this video, the people we are up against now are not SJWs. They are something else. This is a new culture war, and we are not going to win it if we mischaracterize the problem. The people we are up against now are what I call silicants. The silicant is this big fish that has been around since the dinosaurs, but refuses to go extinct. In the same way, mass media people refuse to accept that they are obsolete, and are fighting against the rise of social media. This fight is done for financial reasons, but there is also an ideological dimension to it. The mass media people used to be those who decided which information should be shared with the public, and this made them develop a mentality of gatekeepers to Western culture. Now that the gates are open, they are afraid that Western culture is about to be overrun by barbarians, so they are trying to close back the gates. The difference between the SJWs and the Silicons is that the SJWs believe that we are all shaped by our society, whereas the Silicons believe that they themselves can think freely, but the public, the uneducated masses, they are unable to think for themselves and need to be guided. The SJWs are fighting us because they want to bring down the liberal system. The Silicons are fighting us because they want to preserve it, even against change that needs to happen. But they are also passive regressives, so they bite when the SJWs tell them that social media is ruled by Nazis, and this affirms to them that they need to campaign to censor it. The problem is, the people of Silicon Valley are also part of this mentality, and also believe that they should be gatekeepers. And so, instead of standing by their creators against mass media, Silicon Valley became Silicon Valley. The Silicons are not wrong that the opening of the gates is dangerous. When you allow everyone to spread information, you end up with a measles outbreak and other bad stuff. But the gates are open and the horses are out. What we need to do now is jump in and engage in a battle of ideas. Eventually it will create a more informed public, which will be more resilient to bad ideas. It is better that people reject anti-vaxxers because they are educated on the issue, not because the media is preventing them from hearing what the anti-vaxxers have to say. The Silicons are trying to prevent us from having this battle of ideas, and this is why they need to be defeated. So, bottom line, it's not that things have gone worse, it's that we have gone to the next level. When Gamergate happened, it happened within the online community, and the SJWs initially had the upper hand. The Silicons were reporting the narratives that the SJWs were feeding them, and this is what got out to the general public. But the shitlords prevailed, and now they have become so big that they talk to the general public directly. So now we are a threat to the Silicons themselves, and our fight is directly with them. And right now they are bigger than us. So, once again, we find ourselves where we were 5 years ago, with our foe having the upper hand. This war will be tough to win, and we will probably have to find alternatives to Silicon Valley. But first, we need to understand that we are all in the same boat. I am seeing people on the right claiming that only they are getting censored, because Silicon Valley are all SJWs, and people on the left claiming that only they are getting censored, because of pressure from the Trump administration. Guys, this isn't about left versus right, or SJWs versus shitlords. This is about social media as a whole being under attack. When you attack each other, you're only helping the Silicons get their way. This is what I had to say today. Here's to the next 5 years of culture wars. Social media Avengers, assemble.